Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Racing Insiders podcast. This is episode 170, so we're getting up there. And on this edition, of course, I'm Kate Dillon from Crate Insider and the Cars Racing Show, and I have a special guest tonight. And this is someone I met him a few years ago, I think in the before times, pre-COVID. And we met while we were both speakers at a promoters workshop. So I'm very excited to bring this person on today. And welcome to Josh Holt from MyRacePass. So Josh, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kate, glad to be here. I'm happy to be here. Excited to hang out for a few minutes here. Absolutely.
Yes. And I was just astonished. I met you way back, and back then I thought MyRacePass, I thought the app was really just like a live timing app. We used Race Monitor down here in the South quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, okay, well, it's just another like live timing app is pretty much all I thought it was. Like, I think Lucas was using it, or World of Outlaws. And, you went to one of those races and had to download the MyRacePass app instead. And I apologize for my phone here. I'm going to mute myself in just a second. But tell us really all the things that MyRacePass does.
Well, that's, MyRacePass covers a wide surface of different things that we do. And I'd like to get into a little bit of the background in it, but just on the front face, there's, the best way, the fun way to explain it is when we bring on new help or new employees or new teammates within MyRacePass, one of the first things that they say is, I had no idea you guys did this much. And so with that being said, we cover a very wide range of products that we offer at MyRacePass. We obviously do have the MyRacePass app, which kind of put us in front of a lot of people here the last few years. That's where people probably know us the most from. But behind the scenes there, we have a race management system. Now nearly 90% of the oval tracks in the U.S. lean on that system on a weekly basis. Basically where you do online registration, generate the lineups, results, point standings, payouts, and then all that information funnels to their website, which is also another thing that we do. So we've built literally over 1,100 websites since we first started the company. Which was back in 2008. From there, we have a really cool apparel program, which I'd like to talk a little bit more about later. We do some print stuff. So we used to do more hero cards. We don't do as many hero cards for the drivers anymore. We can with our clients if you need them or whatever. But yeah, and then we have an ad platform. So like we spun up another company led by Jim Sweener, who was at Racing Junk for about 15 years. Everybody knows who Racing Junk is at, but Jim's been with us for coming up on 3 years probably, and he leads our MRP digital ad platform where we have advertising on throughout the app and different websites that we do. And what's cool about that is, racetracks can sign up to be a publisher and actually get paid back on the ads that we sell. So MyRacePass does a lot of stuff, and it's overwhelming at times, but I guess I've been at it since the start, and it's fun to educate the people on everything that we do actually do.
Yeah, that's actually really fascinating, because I knew that you guys have been in business for 15 years, but to start a business in 2008, there's like two really big years I can think of, 2008 and 2020, which were like hell years in one way, shape, or form. So like what month of 2008, because I was end of October when the whole world, crashed to a halt. When was it you guys started MyRacePass?
Well, so there's three of us, myself, Ross Van Eck, and Zach Kelmus. So the three of us got together. It was actually Zach's idea to come. We were at a friend of ours' birthday party at a bar in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And Zach comes up, and I was doing these racing resumes, portfolios. And then Zach came up, would have been like October of 2007. And him and Ross were building websites. So from October, so it was like a Tuesday night or whatever, October 2007, we launched our first website January 8th of 2008. And then, so we kind of argue that we started in January, but officially we actually started the company CAVAHO, which is the first two letters of our last names, CAVAHO LLC, based out of Sioux Falls in April, I think it was tax day, April 15th of 2008. So that's our official start date. We launched our first website in January 2008.
Wow. And I'm sure like that October crash was a bit of an obstacle. And and being a business person myself, going up on almost 10 years, what are some of the other obstacles that you've run into along the way?
Well, the change, right? So we're a technology company, we're a software company in motorsports, and in 2000, I mean, there's been a lot of changes. Been 16 years here in a few months that we've been at it. A lot of growing pains, come throughout that. But I think I get asked this question a lot. What are the biggest changes that you've seen, or obstacles you had to overcome? And a lot of it, one could argue, and I'm not trying to say anything bad, but motorsports in general was maybe a little behind the times in technology for many, many years. I say this a lot, where motorsports is a lot like an iceberg, to where the tip of the iceberg you see above the water is your IndyCar, your Formula One, your NASCAR, Cup Series. That's the tip of the iceberg. But below that are all these racetracks, over 800 racetracks in the United States that race on a weekly basis, and all the travel and series and all that kind of stuff. That's the big bulk of motorsports, right? But what you see is up top, but what you also see is all the technology. I mean, even Formula One, as advanced as it is today, it was almost as advanced as it was now 15 years ago. But if you look at the weekly tracks, or some of the places, I mean, we're just now getting into online ticketing. We're just now getting into having credit cards available at the racetracks, and so for us, being a software company, being a technology company, coming into motorsports, for the education process was upfront. It was like, okay, we have issues here, we have problems here, and let's figure out a way to solve them using a website or using a computer or whatever, versus instead of having to write everything out all the time. So that would probably be the single most challenging aspect of MyRacePass when we first started. Now, since then, we were just the three of us for many years. That's how, one of the ways we were able to get through the fall of 2008 and spring of 09 for that matter, is it was just the three of us. We weren't paying ourselves a bunch of money. We were just barely doing what we needed to do to kind of keep the doors open, because we had a bigger goal in mind. MyRacePass was the goal. We didn't know what it was called then. We didn't know it was called MyRacePass, but that was the goal. And we had 2007, 2008, Facebook was really starting to take off, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the first things we were like, I'm going to fast forward a little bit here about some of the background. Let's build a Facebook for motorsports. Well, you can't just build something like that and all of a sudden you have 1 million people going to it. We knew that we needed a footprint in the industry. Well, Zach and Ross were very talented developers, and still are, very talented developers, and build websites. So we started building websites for race car drivers, and we just started having pockets of different parts of the country selling, websites for race car drivers. That evolved into websites for racetracks. From there, the technology side alone, most people, anybody who has a computer or had a phone or anything, understands the premise that if I buy a computer today, a year from now, it's probably outdated. Or if I buy a new phone today, Apple comes out with a new one next year, and I got to buy the latest and greatest. Well, software is very similar to that. So when we're coding things today or developing things today that we started or built the baseline of 15 years ago, staying on top of that is a challenge. So always, and then any business goes through growing pains when you're growing, scaling up or scaling down. We went through both sides. We've scaled up, scaled back down. Now we're scaling back up again. And so there's a lot of changes that come with that.
Yeah. So did you just kind of grow piece by piece by piece then, as like expanding each of, like you expanded doing the websites, and then one thing leads to another, which leads to another. And that's how we've ended up with this whole integrated system today.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, what's cool about it though is this whole integrated system you mentioned. I mean, so people today who know the MyRacePass name, they have the MyRacePass app on their phone. When they're on the app, you can see all these different racetracks that are racing. 250 on a Saturday night, or I forget what the number got up to this year, on Saturday. And you can scroll through, you can pick a track, you can follow your favorite drivers, you can follow your own stuff. Well, obviously that kind of information in one spot don't just come overnight, but our goal initially was, so for the techie guys and gals listening on here, I mean, so all of our stuff is database driven, right? So when we first, all of our websites, everything that we do there's a big, powerful database behind it. And from the very first website we built, there was three main things we wanted to be able to do. One, we wanted to make sure the client could update the website themselves with ease. So like we can make it to where if you could update your Facebook page, you could update your website. So that has only gotten better over the years. We wanted to be able to make it to where the drivers had something unique about them, like a unique ID. So that way that driver we could bring in old data and tie it to that driver and populate previous year's schedules or something like that. The third thing we wanted to do is on the marketing side, which is my background, is we wanted to be able to track how many impressions the sponsor logos and how many impressions and clicks they get to generate a report. So that way the driver could take that and show to John's muffler service and show them what they're getting being affiliated, with their race team. So those three main goals that was on the first website we did in January of 2008. Well, since then, you start building this database of drivers, this database of results, and then you start having a situation where tracks. So then, we move into having tracks with our race management system. Well, then the information gets funneled into their website gets updated automatically, and then boom, all of a sudden you have it all on the palm of your hand on the MyRacePass app.
And that's just so amazing, because I think on MyRacePass app, you can click on a driver and like see their picture, profile, link to their website. And it's really cool. You came from doing resumes, for racers. So you knew how important it was to be able to share, for a driver to be able to share with a potential sponsor, like how much their audience means. And I think a lot of that has changed, especially in the last few years, about the putting a sticker on your car and what sponsorship truly means. And the guys with the biggest audiences are the ones you either have to be winning all of the races and getting all of the press from that, or you have to create your own press and have your own audience. Like, you've got two choices there. And so that's really cool that you can really put a number with that. And that's a number that is, it's definitely relevant. So anyway, I didn't know that. See, I'm always learning something new about the things that you guys do. Now, with your race management system, did I read somewhere that you guys also track the whole points and all of that too? Is that right?
Yeah, so we basically build the software that racetracks can use to calculate points. So like basically every racetrack, depending if you're sanctioned by a certain sanctioning body or not, they have a certain points scheme, right? You get so many points if you show up, you get so many points in the heat race, so many points in the feature, so on and so forth. Well, they can build all that in there, and then at the end of the night when the results are there, they just click a button and boom, the points are tabulated. So that's a really, and then what's cool about that is a driver can go back in and basically see how many points they received at every event that they raced at. And that's a really handy tool, especially for the drivers that are out there, chasing points. They're chasing the national points, so they go around different racetracks and see which driver's doing better at which track, or which track they can get the easiest points at, or whatever. There's been a lot of fun things come from that. But no, the points thing is a big part of it, and same with payouts. So our software they have their pre-built pay schemes, and then you just, at the end of the night, after you add the points, you add your pay, and you fill your printer full of checks, and you hit print, and boom, all your checks are done. And then you can take that file and upload it to your QuickBooks, and for tax purposes, and everything's great for the racetrack, because it's the goal. The ultimate goal for MyRacePass is a couple different things. One, we want to make it. We can talk about this later, but 2012, I had a lease, and I was the leaseholder and the general manager and promoter of Rapid Speedway in Rock Rapids, Iowa. So I've been on that side of the fence. I was a weekly dirt track that we did, I think, 16 or 18 shows at. 2 years after that, I was at Park Jeff with general manager, getting Park Jefferson International Speedway up and going. So I was down there. I've also raced most of my life. But now I forgot where I was going. I was talking about, where was I going with that?
Well, I think really where you're probably going with it is the fact that I know, just having a racing business, and I can talk to software companies who don't understand racing, and that is so challenging just to even explain the racing world to a software company and what it is that I actually need. And so for you, it sounds like the fact that being a racer and being a promoter, that you could see what it was that you needed. And in some cases, I'm guessing that would be like a whole person in a lot of cases. I need a person who's going to handle the payouts and do all of the math, and hopefully they get it right this week. And I need a whole person who's going to manage like my website for my race team or whatever. And you could see those challenges, and you saw those struggles that other people were having because you were having them yourself. And like, okay, this is a problem that we need to solve.
And that's so you reminded me. Thank you. That's the direction I was going. I mean, our goals with MyRacePass is one of the ultimate goals is to make things more efficient for the promoters. I mean, when I was at Rock Rapids and I was at Park Jeff, I mean, the one thing about a racetrack promoter that many racers don't understand, because I was a racer, then I became a promoter, so then all of a sudden all this new stuff was new to me. They literally wear about 500 hats. And most of your weekly racetracks are operating on a very thin line of profitability. So we're not. So what we need to be able to do is make things as efficient as absolutely possible, and then also the promotional aspect of it. So how do we get as many eyeballs on this? Engage that race fan. We want that race fan engaged into the product in front of them. That product in front of them being the racing. They want to. That's why it's so important for drivers to have their profiles updated, because you want that connection. You want the fan in the stand to be like, oh, you're from Webster, South Dakota. I got a cousin that lives there, for example. I'm going to go buy that guy's T-shirt. That's pretty cool. And so that fan engagement is a big piece of what MyRacePass is doing. And then obviously the platform for the drivers, giving them a single spot. Like, I wish I had this. I've been racing go-karts since I was 6. We've been around long enough to where we've had some 6-year-olds start out years ago when we first started as a company. Now that they're, what is the math? They're 21, 22 years old. They can go back and look, and they got 15 years of their results updated on their website. All done by MyRacePass. The early years, obviously, they were probably inputting the data themselves, but then eventually the racetracks started using the race management software, and that updated the website for them. So it's that aspect of MyRacePass is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because it kind of went from the, like, I love to hear the phrase that it only takes 10 years to become an overnight success, but it really was like, we were down here in the South, the race monitor was kind of everywhere. And I just, had a little bit of MyRacePass, and next thing you know, I mean, MyRacePass is everywhere. And I thought it was really cool how you guys kind of just took over the world, and you really, it wasn't just trying to be one thing. You were, and you're not trying to be everything to everybody, but you are an integrated platform. All of these pieces connect and everything works together, and it only just makes sense that it's all in one place.
And that was the idea, is just that efficiency part of it, right? And I think, Race Monitor is a great product. It's a great app. I still use it to this day. I'm not afraid to say that. There's certain places that don't use MyRacePass that I want to follow along. And but the thing that makes us different about Race Monitor is just simply everything else that it has. Once you get used to, we keep on listening to our client, listening to our users, and saying what's the next best thing we need to make. We get ideas all the time, and every one of them is important to us. And one of the biggest things that we've launched here recently is the Near Me feature, to where when you're at a racetrack and you open up the app, as long as you got location turned on in the app, the track that you're standing at will show up at the top of the list. And that was one of the biggest advantages. As dumb as that sounds, or as easy as that was actually to do, that was like one of the biggest advancements we did to the homepage of the app, and since we launched the app. But you can favorite the tracks. You can favorite the series. I know, like, there are things coming, like right now, if you favorite a track or favorite a driver, when they add a news article, it sends you a push notification for a track. The first green flag will send you a push notification. If they get rained out or canceled for whatever reason, the app can send you a push notification. There are things in the works for when your favorite driver hits the racetrack that it might let you know. So there's that part of it. There is the communication aspect from the racetrack to the race fan, that we want to help streamline that for the promoter, so they don't have to go buy some super spendy text message service or some super spendy, or even build their own app, for example, because I know how much it costs to build and maintain an app. But then just make things a lot easier for everybody, And then, but the difference between that and Race Monitor is we just have, we got the lineups around the app. And they're official lineups. I mean, they come directly from the scoring tower. That's where that information is coming. I mean, when the scores hit calculate lineups, it goes to the cloud and then goes back down to the palm of your hand on your phone. So it comes, and then when they print out the lineups, you'll see a lot of, they'll post lineups across the pit board or whatever. Those are coming from the MyRacePass race management software. When they hit save on lineups, it's saving on your phone. You just got to remember, for the users there, just remember to swipe down to refresh it to make sure no changes have been made or whatever before you go out. Same with results. There are official results, as long as, I mean, when they post the results in the scoring tower, those are the results. The only time it changes, obviously, if they have I see a lot of this, tire sample stuff. You see that come up every once in a while, and a tire sample comes back and they failed it or whatever. Then the track goes back and makes the adjustments and hits save. Well, then the results are updated on the MyRacePass app. So that's the biggest difference. And I think it took a while. I talked early on about change. As far as a national caliper series, I mean, the American Sprint Car Series used us for many, many years. They're actually the first traveling national series to come on with MyRacePass when we did their website in 2011. And that came with the Chili Bowl and the Tulsa Shootout. And they were using it. And then in the late model world, the first one there was actually the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. And they seen the product that MyRacePass had, and that's why they made the switch, and they went exclusive to MyRacePass versus going to the other platform. And that, a lot of people were upset about that, and that's why we were down there for Speed Weeks, and we were there to educate the drivers first, and then from there we were there to try to educate the fans on how to use the app, and I forget how long that's been now. It's probably been 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember.
Yeah. I see we've got a couple of comments. I'm sorry, I didn't turn off my actual other phone. I don't know what's going on. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm surprised mine hasn't.
People should know better. It's probably just a spammer anyway. This never happens. I'm never that guy, but I really apologize. So we've got some people here on the audience, and if you guys have a question or a comment, feel free to drop it into the comments. I see Scott is here, as he always is. He says, "You think Halloween is scary? We have California politicians year round." Yeah, that's about as scary as it gets, and you've got some of the creepiest too. Yeah. And Scott did say congratulations on 4 years. So I'm not sure if he means like the podcast, or maybe that's how long you've been with Lucas. I think that would track about right for being with Lucas. But I think anytime people in general are resistant to change, but it's just such a weird dichotomy, when it comes to like software and stuff, that on one hand, we don't want to change what we were doing, but at the same time in racing, we're always chasing whatever's going to get us something better, more speed, more wins, like any of those things.
What's the next edge? Yeah.
Yes.
Can we get, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And here's a good comment. So from John, he says, would be awesome to have it set up so I can favorite a driver, maybe a track or event, and it sends me a notification that they tripped a transponder line.
So John, that's a great question if you're still listening, and but that's a common question that we get from a lot of people. So I'm glad you brought that up. So currently you can favorite a track, a series, or a driver, or a sanctioning body inside the app. If you go to the event or the track profile or the driver profile, there's a little star right below the name. You can tap that. What's really handy there is then you can go to the menu and click on your favorites. That way you can favorite your favorite drivers, your 3 or 4 or 5 favorite tracks, and your 2 or 3 or 4 favorite travel and series. And instead of weaving through the big long list on Saturday night in July, you can click on your favorites, and you click on favorites, and then Josh Holt, and boom, there's Josh's profile. Now getting a notification when they trip the transponder line, we'll just say that day's not far away, but there's be some more fun stuff to come with that.
Awesome. That's exciting. Oh, and I have some clarification. So Tori, who's our podcast producer that you've been dealing with, Josh, she's here saying, hey, y'all. And she just had her 4-year anniversary at Crate Insider this week. So the congratulations on 4 years was for Tori Radford. So yeah, I'm really grateful having a wonderful assistant and great podcast producer who puts us all together and keeps us on the same page. It's part of that. Yeah, there's no app for for a Tory, so there's no app for that. For just that actually reaching out. So it's really great. Now let's talk about where you're located, because you're actually in a perfect spot in the middle of the country. So you're, really equidistant to about everything, but I guess your headquarters is now in Lincoln, Nebraska. Is that correct? And that's being called the Silicon Prairie, from what I understand, and because it has so many tech companies. And how has that, tell us about that location and about your offices and what it's like to have a Silicon Prairie.
Well, so COVID changed that a little bit, but it's still considered the Silicon Prairie. So when we moved, we started the company in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and it was the three of us, myself, Ross, and Zach. Zach is from a small town just west of here. Ross is from a small town just northeast of here in southwest Minnesota. So we're all kind of from, and I'm from northeastern South Dakota, but we're all from this general area. When we were looking to really make the move, it was time to make a change, right? We needed to go big or go home type, so to speak. So we were looking at different places, and there was a couple other things that brought us to Lincoln. I had some friends down there that kind of explained all the different the tech industry down there. I think at the time there was like 96 or 97 tech companies downtown Lincoln, Nebraska. So after looking into that further, they actually considered it, the Lincoln, Omaha area, the Silicon Prairie. Now, I'm sure you all heard of Silicon Valley out in California. We looked out there and it's just way too expensive. Plus I'd rather be here in the Midwest. But Lincoln just made a lot of sense because we could go down there, get an office, we were really looking to ramp up, needed to bring on some new talent, new developers. The Silicon Prairie, that came because a lot of all the tech companies, because there's all these tech companies, but a developer could come to the Midwest and you can get a, decent paying development position, but yet you could buy a couple 1,000 square foot home for a couple $100,000 versus $1.5 million out on the West Coast. So, I mean, that was where it kind of grew up. And then for us, it just made sense. It was a kind of a marketing thing as well. We're making this big move. We bought a company called SpeedNet that same time. So we moved down to Lincoln, Nebraska in September of 15. We bought SpeedNet. We all moved. We moved one of our employees down. We bought SpeedNet and we hired 8 people in that first 8 months. So that first year or two was just, I don't even remember any bit of that first year or two. It was such a
chaos.
But Lincoln is awesome. We actually, I love Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm not a big college football fan, but I kind of became a Huskers fan just because of the energy that the Huskers fans have. It's just insane. We went to a couple games and 90 some thousand people. And that stadium's the third largest population in all of Nebraska, and on game day. So that was fun. We had a really, really cool office downtown for quite a few years. Then COVID hit, right? The city kicked us out of our office basically. Everybody's got to go home. That's how it is going to be. Blah 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 blah. And we're like, well, crap. Now what do we do? So we basically got everybody set up to work efficiently at home. We were a little bit worried about it at first. But being a software company and for on the sales and support staff, we travel around quite a bit, going to a lot of different races across the country. So we get together fairly often. And so it was March 19th of 2020, I think is when it was. Kicked everybody out of the office. And then we never really found a good reason to go back. So we actually, it took us quite a while, but it was September of last year. So just over a year ago. So it was 2023. So September of 22. So that 2 years later, almost 2.5 years later, we finally let the office go. So we actually don't even have an office anymore. We're 100% remote, in which that afforded me the ability to come back home. I live here in Sioux Falls now, so I'm closer to my parents. And so that's kind of handy. And I'm real close to the airport, which I fly everywhere, and I'm really close to the interstate. So if I need to go somewhere, it's easy for me to get there. But yeah, we're still headquartered out of Lincoln, and I go back down there as often as I can and meet with the rest of the team that's there. But it's also, COVID taught us a lot. The fact that, our team is amazing. Like, we have the greatest team that I can ever ask for. And we keep adding great team members, and because of COVID, it opened our eyes that we can hire remote, hire those people from outside. When we brought on MSR Mafia, Ben Shelton, and his right hand, Jeremy Peters. I mean, Ben lives in Tennessee and Jeremy lives in Illinois. And had it be not, if COVID not have happened, would the MSR and Ben Shelton and MyRacePass and all that stuff, would that have happened? I don't know. But I mean, I think it probably would have at some capacity, but COVID definitely was like, it was no question, right? This is going to be easy. And bringing on Ben Shelton and Jeremy has been, so it was been a great thing to do.
Ben is one of my heroes. I'm just telling you, he really is. I tell him that, and I will say it. I just think the work that he does is absolutely amazing. I've always been super impressed with him. And I think it's what a weird time for that to happen too, because COVID on one end, yes, it shut down the world, except for we realized that the one thing we could continue to do in many places, not everywhere, but racing. And then racing continued wherever it could. And even when it couldn't at first, we had iRacing. And I don't know if do you guys cover any of the iRacing stuff? I don't know what the answer to that is. That's all its own kind of ecosystem there.
We don't. We were asked by many people if we could start doing some iRacing stuff, but it just didn't fit in our little circle of our plan. It's a long, convoluted story, but we wanted to, and we tried it. We actually tried a couple of them, but it just didn't work out as we were thinking.
Yeah. But then we found out the racing could continue, and it's the one sport that was able to continue even through COVID, which means we were in the racing industry. We didn't get the same break. I mean, they might have kicked you out of your offices, but it didn't mean that there didn't need to be work to be done. There was lots of work to be done. so what a challenge as you get more and more demands for things. And yet now you got to figure out how we're going to get this done.
Yeah. COVID was, COVID for everybody was a wild and crazy time, right? It doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter what you're doing, what part of the world you lived in. COVID was definitely a weird thing. And it opened up a lot of eyes to a lot of people for a lot of different things that you can do, and how you can do things, how you need to do it, or how you could have been doing it, but you weren't. I've said this for years, racers will always find a way. And whether it's tires, whether it's COVID, whether it's race parts, they're still going to find a way to make it happen. And that's one thing I love about this industry. And promoters are racers. Promoters are going to find a way. They want to find a way to keep the doors open. For us, it was locally Park Jefferson International Speedway. Adam Adamson up there and then Terry McCarl came together and put that race together end of April. So like a month and a half after we kicked everybody out of the office. That was a big deal. That was actually on what was interesting here is that, so we do the website for Park Jefferson International Speedway. That was the place I was at and helped Adam get going back in 2014. When they announced this race, what's the name of that website? It's like the gossip, Hollywood gossip, TMZ. Is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
TMZ. So TMZ picked up the news article on parkjeff.com. And basically making fun of all of us rednecks out here racing with COVID. And but my point of that is you would not believe the amount of people that went to parkjeff.com and learned about a race happening whenever that was at the end of April. It was insane, the numbers that the TMZ picked that thing up, and it was funny. It was funny to see the responses of the people who maybe didn't agree with what we were trying to do. As far as racers go, and yeah, that was just really interesting.
Yeah, COVID changed a lot, and for me too. I mean, I had to stock more stuff because supply chain, which means I ended up having to get a building. So there was that, and then also most of the world was shut down, and that's what was kind of the reboot of the Cars Racing Show. Is back in 2020 is when we brought the racing show back. And of course, MyRacePass, you guys have had a booth at all the shows, 2020. And of course, then it was 2022 and then 2023 going into 2024 now. So now we're 4 years in to having the next thing. I mean, it's just change. It's not necessarily good or bad. I mean, believe me, I think COVID sucked, but the change that's come out of it isn't necessarily all bad. I don't think it's just change.
it's just change. It kind of forced us into some change. It forced us into some change that we want, that we now look back on and say, yeah, that's a good thing. It forced us into some change that we didn't want. But, at the end of the day, there was nothing we could do about it.
No.
No matter what side of the fence you leaned on the whole thing, it didn't matter. At the end of the day, we were all having to go through this on the supply side, the manufacturing side, the technology side, the racetrack side. I mean, everybody was feeling its effects, and it's still the effects are still rippling out to this day, and they will for many years to come. I firmly believe that. But yeah, COVID was interesting, and but it did force us to think a couple different ways, and I think. Was it for the better? I mean, one could argue that, but it definitely made us take a look at things with different perspective, I should say.
Well, and I can see that there'd be a great opportunity. So now then, you guys moved your company to go where your potential employees would be. And now you find that you could hire literally anybody in the whole world as long as they had an internet connection. It's really all you really need. I mean, obviously they need to be qualified, but as far as like in order to connect to them, then you have everything you need right there, and really opens up the idea of, if you need a specialty developer, you can find them. And whether it's even a part-time deal or a longer term, what a great advantage that it must be in your business.
Yeah, it's you're only as good as your team is. I mean, there's no. I mean, a quarterback has to have great receivers. A running back has to have good blockers, and a team, in order to do great things, they got to have great people. And that's one of the things I'll stress on every chance I get, is the team that we've had. And prior to COVID, we had a fantastic team, and then it was ready. It was time to grow. Needed to grow. We needed more bodies. Needed more developers. Needed more sales and support staff. Needed more fill in the blank. And we've been able to now, with us opening the doors to not just being a little bitty Lincoln, Nebraska, as far as our hiring pool. Now it's nationwide for the most part, and globally for the most part. But being able to put together the team that we have, it's been fun being able to go. Like, we're in active hiring now from the development side, looking for developers. We're really going to start ramping up our development staff here in the next 12 to 18 months, or less, actually. I should say 6 to 12 months. But finding local people is one thing. You can still find great help there in Lincoln, because they have great schools, because of the whole Silicon Prairie thing. They have the Rakes College there, which is a very specialized computer science thing that they have there, and it's produced some really cool stuff, a really cool personnel. But the global aspect of it. But you mentioned about Ben. I mean, Ben Shelton. He's been a great asset to the team. Him and Jeremy. I mean, having those two on board has been awesome. I think we're coming up on. I think it's been over 2 years. I can't remember for sure now how long it's been, but he's fitting in really well. He loves it. He travels a lot. He's on the microphone for the late model fans. Obviously, all know who Ben Shelton is, and his right hand, Jeremy Peters, had been with him for many years. He's a rock star. And it's our entire team we're all, for the most part, all industry people, other than on the development side. But what's cool about that is our developers have turned into some pretty big race fans, and it's been fun to kind of see them now. So one of the things we do for remote is we do on the development side, Zach and Ross lead that team, and so they do daily stand-ups every day at 9 o'clock. They'll chat. It's planned for 15 minutes. It usually ends up being the first 10 or talking about whatever. The last 5 is actually about work. And then for us on the sales support side, we have Tuesday and Thursday morning meetings where the entire sales and support staff get together. And it's all done like this, like what you and I are doing. Mm-hmm. We use a product called Google Meet. And so we can do the virtual meetings. And every Wednesday we do a team meeting where everybody, the entire team, gets together. And it usually lasts about an hour, whereas, maybe 20 minutes of it is work relevant. The rest is all kind of whatever. And then Morgan, who's been a huge addition to MyRacePass, she came on a year ago. She's our office operations manager, and she actually races late models. She lives in eastern South Dakota. So she puts together these monthly kind of fun things to get together on. So just last Friday or Thursday, we did a Halloween get together. We could wear a costume if we wanted to. You could have your favorite drink if you wanted to, and we'd sit around and just chat for, it was just a little over an hour, talk about whatever we wanted to talk about. And those kind of things, those kind of interactions are important. Also, not having the office, we save that expense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we did when I moved back here to Sioux Falls is Huset Speedway was the place I grew up at. Huset Speedway in Brandon, South Dakota, just outside of Sioux Falls. Literally been going there since I was 6 months old. And they had in Lucas Oil, we have a great relationship with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, and they had their Silver Dollar Nationals. And then Joe Kaczynski who started the Silver Dollar Nationals at I-80 Speedway. He was a good friend of ours because he was in our backyard just outside of Lincoln, Nebraska. Well, closed the track, moved the Silver Dollar Nationals to Huset's. I moved back to Sioux Falls. So I'm like, well, this is a perfect opportunity to do this. So we actually sponsored that event solely for the reason to have the entire team come there. We rented out the suite. We flew everybody in, and we were all there for 4 days or whatever it was. We did a big grill out at my place. We hung out. And that was really cool. I mean, we got to, be able to do that. And we're all going to go, even the development staff, we're all going to go to PRI this year. So we're all going to be there at PRI. And having those times when we can all get together, I think is important. So we're definitely going to do that at least once, if not twice a year, every year.
Well, and that's super cool because then you really value that time that you guys have together. I mean, I think sometimes when we see each other every day, we kind of take it for granted a little bit. And this way you can really make it special and make it a memory that really sticks. And you can really feel that teamwork when you're in person and enjoy it a little bit more.
Well, yeah, and it's all about, I mean, when our team gets along with everybody really well. Any one of our teammates could go hang out with any one of the other teammates and go hang out go do whatever, and everybody be happy and have a good time. And we're all like one big giant family, so to speak, and that's a cool aspect of it. And doing those events, you got to have that FaceTime, physical time.
Yes.
And I think that's important, and we'll never forget that. So I mean, we'll do those events as much as we can and try to get the whole team together, and because that's when you can accomplish a lot virtually, like what we're doing now. We do try to come up with new ideas. We listen to our users. What are the common denominators, the things that people wanting. But then when you all get together, there's just that extra level of, especially when you don't do it every day, is an extra level of just camaraderie, whatever word you're looking for there.
Yeah.
To bring the team together.
Yeah, like those kind of those random ideas. And how big is your team now?
Oh, when you add in the handful of contracted help, I think we're right at 20 or just under, something like that. Which is kind of crazy. What are we at? Probably 18 or 19. But we had we were actually, as far as personnel goes, a little bit more than that back in 2017 when we first bought SpeedNet, which is a company based out of Florida. They were a race management software company that's been around for 20 years. And we really had to ramp up our staff, both on the sales, support, and development side. And then we had to back it down a little bit. And then we sat at like before Ben and Jeremy came on, or right about the time Ben and Jeremy came on, I think we were at 12 or something like that. And we were at 12 for quite a while. And then here recently been adding some more personnel, and we're pretty picky, or I'm pretty picky, I guess, and we want someone that's going to fit with our team and like one of Chris Krug, for example, he was an announcer at Knoxville and for 10 years. And I mean, he eats, breathes, and I mean, the entire team, I shouldn't just single him out, but he eats, breathes, and sleeps MyRacePass. And it's fun to see him grow with the company. He's been with us coming up on 6 years now. And it's just been fun to see him grow with the company, the same visions as the rest of the team. And those are the kind of people we're looking for, I mean, Austin, Dakota, I mean, everybody, this is their industry. They love it. They love being in the middle of it, and they love what we're doing, and they love putting smiles on the faces of the people that we're doing business with.
Well, that's exciting because it is a totally different avenue, to be involved in motorsports and not necessarily be behind the wheel of a race car. So what a great opportunity if other people listen in or see this podcast. And I see we've got a great comment here. I didn't read the whole thing pre deal. I know it's going to cover up our faces here. So Trent says, my race pass was a lifesaver during COVID for the track I did finances for. We could pre-sell our government allotted attendance tickets online, and it actually made it a high demand event as it was sellouts almost every Friday night. We were fortunate enough to have a large enough capacity to be able to still make a profit during a very difficult environment. Plus, the money was in the bank within a day or so from my race pass with a click of a button. 2 thumbs up.
Wow. Well, thank you, Trent, for that testimonial. I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's from Nebraska, so he's in that Nebraska area. I don't know which track he's talking about, but yeah, Trent's great. We've definitely done great business with Trent. So what a cool thing though. Like he said, I like the government allotted.
Yeah, it was all about moving where every state was different than within every state. Some of the counties were different, and you could have 10%. You could fill 10% capacity or 20% capacity, 50% capacity. So there was I forget where it was at, but somewhere out in California they could do a 5% capacity. So the guy, Trent's with Boone County.
Boone County. Mm-hmm.
Yep. There was one track out west that did 5% capacity, so he went and bought a whole crap load of grandstands. increases footprint, so 5% you could still get however many people you needed to have the show in there, and so it was COVID.
Yeah.
No, Trent, thanks for that. At Boone County Raceway there in Albion, is that how you say that, Nebraska? They've been with us for a long time, and we certainly appreciate what they do up there, and certainly appreciate your testimonial there.
Well, I really love how, really bringing on, how do I put this? Having consolidation within the industry, I think, is fantastic. So, for instance, like when I started Crate Insider almost 10 years ago, I thought, hey, by having a website, I used to do like schedules, but I do have all the rules for all these different series. And I was really, I'm not involved in a series or a track, but I kind of hoped, I think in a way, that if there's one place where all of this type of racing isn't all in one place, that maybe the rules would get closer and closer. Well, unfortunately, in crates, and especially crate late models, we've seen the rules get farther and farther from one series to the next. But I do love that with my race pass, it doesn't really matter if I go to a track in Iowa or California or South Carolina or anywhere, that I can pull up this app and it's one thing. I don't have 15 different apps that are all trying to compete for that, for my eyeballs and for space on my phone.
Yeah, bringing it all together is, I think, important, because the one thing we have to remember as an industry is the motorsports world is quite large, several million people. But it's not like when I was talking about earlier with Park Jeff and the COVID race and all that stuff on TMZ, on whatever that website is. We're talking millions upon millions. We're talking about 200 million people that are going to that thing. And motorsports is big, but it ain't nothing like that.
No.
And so we're a very niche market, right? And the other thing I always say too is, we're all like one big giant family. If you've ever heard the premise or read the book or watched the movie 6 Degrees of Separation, what that means is I know you know that person knows that person. 6 ways we know the entire world. Well, in motorsports, that number is less than 2.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool about it, And for us to help bring it all together, a race fan is going to be a race fan no matter which track it is. If they're a diehard race fan, they're going to watch a race here or there or somewhere in between. And as far as drivers, drivers travel around to different racetracks as well. So having that central place where fans can follow along with the drivers, or drivers can follow along with the racetracks are doing. If one place is rained out, the other place is not. It's definitely a handy tool, and that's one of the reasons why we built it. We want it to be efficient. We want it to be helpful. We want it to solve problems.
Well, I love what you said earlier about one of the newer things about clicking on the near me thing, because I've definitely done that. The scroll. I mean, you just hope that the track doesn't start with like a W or something. So I'm definitely going to be using that next time. So what else do we not know about RacePass that I just have neglected to ask you?
Well, we do. I realize we're running out of time. I can't believe it's been as long as it has already. So I appreciate everybody sticking with us. But no, to answer your question, one of the other things that we do, this is more targeted for the racetracks and for the businesses out there. Um, so we also have an ad network. So you've been on the MyRacePass app. You may have been to MyRacePass.com. You may have been to different track websites out there. You've seen there's ads advertising on the spot, on the placements. We do that for, well, a couple different reasons, but the main reason is to give the industry folk a way to promote themselves. We have fairly granular data to, if someone, a manufacturer, wants to get into a certain place to be able to promote, like you don't want to promote a sprint car wheel to a bunch of late model drivers, wouldn't make any sense. But what I really like about this is on the promoter side of it, you can actually make money from it. So like racetracks we do their websites can sign up to become a publisher. That, as a publisher, then it's fairly simple. We send out half of the net revenue from what we generate in advertising sales back to the publishers. Now it's based off of impressions. So if you're a website that gets no traffic, you're not going to get paid as much as a website that gets a bunch of traffic. We've had some tracks earn as much as, I think this year we have one that's going to be topping out just over $4,000. Of course, we have other racetracks that make a couple $100, so obviously in between there. But that was a big piece of the puzzle that we put together, because we want to find as MyRacePass. We can't sponsor every racetrack out there. We can't sponsor every driver out there. We'd be out of business. But if we can find as many ways as we can for they can earn revenue, that's what we're trying to do. And so that's one big piece for the drivers out there. I wish I had this when I was racing, because I'm no different than most of the drivers, than 99% of the drivers out there. Very limited budget, and I could never afford to buy my own T-shirts. And I had my brother who actually would do some for me, so I was able to have some. But we have a drop ship apparel program that's really cool, where you can come to us, you can get a T-shirt design for $100. We put it on your store on the MyRacePass marketplace. A race fan can go there, or yourself, and there's like 5 or 6 or 7 different kinds of apparel, like hoodies, T-shirts, women's V-neck or whatever, and then all the different colors and all the different sizes. If a race fan purchases that, like for example, a race fan buys that shirt, we print that shirt, ship it to the race fan. They get it within 7 to 14 business days, and then once a month, MyRacePass will send you the ticket funds, your profits that you can set. You can set your margins. We'll send your profits to you, directly to your bank account once a month. And so that's a really cool program. We have, as a driver, you can log in and buy them at your own wholesale rate. But as a race fan, you can promote on your Facebook page, promote on your website. Fans will buy it, and it's another way to make money. We've had some cool stories. One of them, which being there was a sport compact driver, new to racing. This was quite a few years ago, and I forget where he was from, somewhere in Nebraska, and he wanted to have a T-shirt or whatever. And I says, well, let's make one have your sponsor name on the front of it, and then, or the back, one of the two, and then your name and racing logo on the back or front, whatever, and then see if he'll pay for the design. It'll be $100 or whatever it is. He's like, all right, well, I don't think I'm going to sell any. Well, the sponsor, that's a big enough name, had quite a few employees. It was like 24 hours after we launched the shirt on his marketplace, he sold 200 shirts. The sponsor bought 200 T-shirts from him, and he made $5 a pop on them. So you can do the math on that.
Yeah, that's $1,000.
Yeah. He made more money on his T-shirts than he did all year racing on his sport compact. I might be joking about that, but I mean, it was just a really cool. That's a really cool story on how that can work. And then for me, like even MyRacePass, like if I need a couple T-shirts, or I'm going to send somebody some T-shirts or whatever, I'll just go on our store. It's the same system that a driver would use, and just buy a couple, change the shipping address, ship them to them, and then I don't have to get off my chair, so to speak. So it's a really cool program for drivers. We probably have nearly 600 stores out there of different drivers and racetracks and race series and businesses that use it. So that's a pretty cool program. And plus it shows up on your driver profile page for fans. So it'd be like a link to your MRP marketplace store in the app, and then fans can click that and buy a T-shirt out of the app.
I think that's super cool for so many reasons. I mean, I think for one, most racers want to be in the shop working on their race car rather than folding t-shirts and putting them into UPS envelopes and then like typing in or copying and pasting to make all the labels. And there's that piece of it. Or there's the other piece where you go and get like a whole bunch of t-shirts. And when it gets towards the end, you know, you've got like four X's and like six smalls. You ran out of larges like 2 months ago. I mean, so you don't have to worry about balancing the inventory because that can be really, really tough to do, to try to balance that. So you don't have the storage you don't have to, you know, you could probably technically make more money per shirt if you went and got them done, but you don't have any of the hassle.
Yeah, if you don't count your time that you put into it, you definitely can. I mean, because our t-shirts, I mean, the pricing's getting better and better, and COVID helped with that also. But I mean, so we haven't increased our prices. We've just it's just been a matter of the cost of the shirt changing, you know.
So that changed a lot, yeah, because of the supply chain and stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, if you don't have to, I know we bought a bunch of beanies and a bunch of hats and a bunch of t-shirts through a local vendor here in Sioux Falls, and just because we were going to buy some, I think we bought a bunch of them, and so I wanted to take them to shows so we can give them away, or we can sell the beanies or whatever. We'll try doing that. That's a pain. I mean, we had to, you know, you put them in bags, you got to label them, you got to mark them, you got to do what you got to do, then you got to have change, then you got to have all that stuff. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but I mean, if you don't have a dedicated person to do that, it's tough. And then for us, I mean, we sell just MyRacePass, and we sell quite a bit of t-shirts just off our store, but it's amazing the amount of drivers that, you know, they'll sell a lot of t-shirts. There's a lot of drivers. So once a month, they put that money in the account. There's several drivers that I'm sending a couple $100 a month to.
Yeah. And I'm sure the ones that have had to deal with, okay, go ahead and DM me and then send me money on PayPal. And then, okay, I got your money, but like, what's your address? And then, like, I mean, I think I just try it once and I think everybody's been through it, but yeah, that'd be pretty amazing. It's
a cool process.
Sounds really, really, really incredible. Absolutely. Anything else we missed at all about MyRacePass? Because you guys are incredible.
Well, I really appreciate it. I mean, I really appreciate being on this podcast for starters. I know you guys do some pretty cool stuff, and it's fun to be a part of that. I was honored when Tori, is that her? Tori reached out to me to get on here, and I've known you now for quite a few years and followed along, been a part of the car show since you guys, you know, launched it again just a few years ago, and that's a fantastic event. I know you guys are growing it every year, and definitely looking forward to being out there again this year. I personally won't be out there because I got to be in Tulsa back to back. But we'll have Jim will be out there. My guy Chris will be out there, and for those of you that haven't been to the car show, be sure to attend the car show. It's in Hickory, right, North Carolina.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And, it's a great event. Plus, I love the North Carolina area. If it was 100% up to me, I'd probably live in that area. I love the Charlotte area. But as far as MyRacePass is concerned, we've touched a lot of stuff, and you know, we got everything. I mean, the app is the biggest thing. That's all of the listeners today, and that'll be listening to this in the future. They know MyRacePass because of the app, and you know, it's the racetracks that use it. Just know that I guess the biggest thing is know that information is coming directly from the scoring tower. One of the common misconceptions is, boy, MyRacePass must have like 300 people working for them because they're doing all these doing all the data, all the results every Saturday night, Friday night. That's not the case, you know. I mean, so it's coming directly from the scoring tower, and that's where we get that information. But no, other than that, you know, MyRacePass.com, hashtag get the app. That's a common hashtag we always use. The MyRacePass app's available obviously on Google Play and the App Store. All of our social media challenges, we're getting better, or social media channels, not challenges. Well, sometimes challenges.
Yeah, yeah.
We're all there at /MyRacePass and the Facebook or X, whatever it's called. We're not on, or the Twitter, X, whatever it's called. We're not on that as much, but but certainly follow along, and we'd love to hear from all of our users. So if you got questions or comments, support at MyRacePass.com. Feel free to email us, support@MyRacePass.com. If you got a cool idea, or if you got some other thing in the works you got some questions on, don't be afraid to shoot us an email, and we'll be happy to reach back out.
Well, that's great. And I think there's a contact form also on your website. So maybe like there's another track out there that hasn't used your services yet, and then they can, or a publisher. I think you're not just limited to tracks at all. So some other like retailers or informational racing websites can be publishers as well. I'm pretty sure there. So different options there, and just myracepass.com. So yeah, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. You're such an authority in this space, and I've learned a lot tonight, and it's been a fun chat. And for anybody who's listening or watching, of course, you're already here. You know where you're seeing it from, but if you're here live, you know we're on Facebook or YouTube. But we're also available as an app, or as a podcast. So whether you're Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you're going down the road and you miss the show live, just plug us into one of those and look up Racing Insiders Podcast. Hit that like button, maybe leave us a comment or a review. That would be fantastic and would really help us out to really grow this audience. And we're not ever going to reach as many people as TMZ does, but that's I'll never publish what DMZ does. So there's that absolute trash that most of the time. But anyway, like us, subscribe us, hit all of the follow all the things, and thank you so much everybody for listening and watching. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys next Monday, and have a good one. And there we go.